WWAEW Marvel fans says, quote, L.A. Knight is a ripoff of The Rock, yet you're the same guy who literally ripped off The Wizard of Oz. You're just a bitter superstar from the past, slamming new talent down on the ground. I'm obviously absolutely disgusted by that awful take coming from someone who I respect. This has to be a work, right? Because
because
the Wizard of Oz
the Wizard of Oz sends
hilarious.
them off at the end, and it's like a little cat that looks like red buttons. So there was no guy there wasn't no 7'5" guy with a dunce cap on that was the Wizard of Oz. See, that was my entire. And on top of that, I wasn't the Wizard of Oz. I was Oz.
That's true. You were the whole damn city.
Oz. When you saw underneath when I came out, it just said Oz. It didn't say the Wizard of Oz. So I was Oz, and as I've said a million times, I was an actual geographical region that didn't exist in anywhere but the film. So you go out there and you play a geographical region, and I'm putting over Scarface and The Crow, and I'm pulling off a geographical region,
a whole fictional city.
Unbelievable. And guess where that yellow brick road led? Yeah, that's right, buddy.
The Happy Trail.
Right up the old mid-sagittal plain.
Guys out there, if you like what we do here, if you like this podcast, we see a lot of great comments that you do on YouTube and Twitter, and it's so appreciated because what we do is different. It's a bit of a risk to say we're just going to come on and not do what all the other wrestling podcasts do.
Or come on and not have any idea what we're going to talk about.
Where we're going. Oh, and you listen on Apple. I know a lot of people prefer the audio for their commutes and stuff, and that's cool. Why don't you leave a positive review on your Apple podcast gimmick or whatever your podcast outlet is? I say Apple because it's about 60%.
If you like us,
of our market, or 50%.
Bury us.
If not, go listen to something else. But yeah, but you know because
we've had the same 3 reviews for like a year, and they're all 3 negative.
It's so like, funny. I don't know how they sort them for some of these sites that
we're so easily hateable. It's just
the aggregate data. But in the beginning, before we shed our audience that did not belong here, before we threw the people out of the club that didn't belong inside, people would post negative comments when we first started, and they didn't like political discussion or our take on a particularly. So they would flame the whole show with, F this, 1 star, blah, blah. But some of these sites that aggregate those reviews for Apple, like they sit there on the top. And I know I read the many comments on Apple, the very nice ones. Went through a whole list of them today. So please continue to do that. And maybe some of these sites that don't want us. Why are we hated? Why are they skewing the audience against us? There are plenty of comments they could lead on their site with chartable. Kishman took us chartable. But it's these 3 comments from a year ago. 53 episodes, by the way, ago. Extreme King says, I'm glad Kevin said what he said about the Tiger Driver. It's a stupid move to take, and it isn't worth it. But unfortunately, if you don't do insane moves nowadays, wrestling fans will say you can't wrestle. We're going to get to that in a bit. So hang on there, Extreme King. Fred Hill. We still have feedback from last week that we haven't gotten to. I think that's a fine segment to move to the main topic there. Punk Metalhead says Steve should have to do the next show locked in the stocks from the Middle Ages for fucking up the audio. So Steve is shackled to his desk today and upside down.
I'll quote Scott Hall. Yeah, and the last perfect person on the planet, they nailed to a cross. So
Very good. Nate Nizzle, it is clear that Sean doesn't pay attention when Nash talks about anything wrestling related. Sean hasn't given a damn about wrestling since 2001. Well, he's not entirely wrong with my not caring very much about wrestling since 2001 or whenever. I can't invest the same amount of interest. I just don't think it's as interesting. But I have a script in front of me. I'm changing stuff. I'm moving stuff. If occasionally I miss something, it's not the end of the world. The Table for Three segment they're talking about from last week, where I thought you were talking about a promo, and you were in fact referencing Table for Three, which airs on the WWE Network along with a lot of other stuff, borrowed, repackaged from kayfabe commentaries.